The AST Voltson Super Trucks is back at the Nelson Ledges Road Course this week to contest the fourth race of the 2017 season. This is the only racetrack on the schedule that is not an oval, much less a short track, but in spite of this, it has attracted a sizable number of teams. 33 trucks are attempting to make the feature race this weekend, but only 25 of them will be able to do so. Qualifying on the pole position is Brianna Prinzhorn for the first time in her career in a surprise qualifying effort from the 7 team, and on our outside is Anthony Griffith, the TM Master Cup Series driver, who will be contesting this race with his own team, Griffith Motorsports. The other 23 starters will be determined by the 2 heat races, in which the top 11 drivers will transfer, plus the fastest driver, who failed to qualify, by finishing position. We begin with heat number 1, where Amy Robinson will lead the field to the start, 16 trucks taking the green flag in this heat, meaning that the final 5 finishers are going to go home early. Robinson and Jennifer Jovak make up the front row. Jovak in that 55 truck, driven by Ben Maddox for most of the season, will be piloting that truck for a few races herself. The two are, of course, married to one another, and Robinson gets a fantastic jump on the start over the 55. The Canadian driver is attempting to make her 3rd start at this track and 4th in the series. She made her oval debut earlier in the season at MIS, where she finished 27th. As Jovak, now trying to fend off the rest of the field as they come after her for the 2nd position, Mary Brousseau and John Bennett dicing down the backstretch, trying to set up a run into the 2nd to final corner. Right behind them are Honoka Kurosawa in the 09, who is back for the first time since MIS, and Rachel Kowalczyk in the 402. All 5 of these drivers off to a very good start and in great position to make the feature, with only 4 laps in this heat. As Brousseau's off the course to the inside, and back up onto Oak Tree. She's going to take Jovak and Bennett off the track. A few of your front runners have just been taken out in an accident on lap 2. Let's take a look at what happened. That was initiated by contact between Kurosawa and Brousseau, and when the 25 comes back on track, she knocks Bennett and Jovak into the tire wall off of Oak Tree. That's going to take them both out of the race after they started in the top 5. Let's go on board the 09 to get a better look at what happened. Here she is running right behind the 58 and the 25, and through turn 2, Brousseau dipped her tires into the grass, and I'm not sure Kurosawa was ready for that. I think she was planning to swing to the outside and fall in line behind the 25, but she had to check up after she drove off course just ever so slightly, and that little mistake is going to take Bennett and Jovak out of the race. And up the track, Jovak's teammate Scott Madigan is going to put himself into the tire wall. He checked up to avoid that accident himself, but then turned down into Jeffer Jackson, knocking himself off course. And this is a huge disappointment for the 58 and the 55. As we've already mentioned, we're running at the front. They had nothing to do with that contact, but they're both going to pay the price. Later that lap, Kurosawa and Rachel Kowalczyk and Jason Miller in the back are all going to overshoot the exit of the carousel. That's going to cost each of those drivers a few positions, and it's going to cost Miller a lot of ground in addition to the track position. The 40 truck, now well behind the rest of the field, is going to rely on some more attrition to have to get back in the transfer zone, and attrition is what he'd get. We're still on lap number 2 here when Ronald Way runs into the back of Alex Raston and turns him off the track. Heading for turn 7, Raston had the 69 truck cleared as they approached the corner, but Way braked much too late. Maybe he was attempting to make a really ambitious maneuver, but it clearly didn't work out as Raston goes out of the race, and that's going to bring an end to what was probably one of the most hectic laps that I've ever seen at this circuit. Lap 3 now, 2 more laps to go, as Kurosawa and Brousseau do battle for the 2nd position with Kevin Irvine and Michael McKinley closely in tow. These drivers now making up the top 5, but Grant Edwards wants to join in the fun himself, trying to get a run on the inside of the 9, but it's not going to work out. Irvine is yet another Canadian attempting to make the race here this weekend. He and his team, Canadian Mongoose Racing, debuted at MIS earlier this year, where they scored a 28th place finish right behind Robinson in the 66 truck. He's been doing a great job in this heat thus far, and on the final lap, Mary Brousseau's going to push it just a bit too hard while trying to defend the 3rd position from Michael McKinley. She goes off the course in the carousel, and that truck is absolutely destroyed after a heavy impact with the tire barrier, and that accident is going to give Jason Miller the final position that he needed to move himself back into the transfer zone, the top 11. And just up the track, McKinley's going to make a slight mistake of his own by dipping his tires into the grass off the carousel. That's going to cost him the 3rd and 4th positions as Irvine and Grant Edwards go on by. But back at the front of the field, Amy Robinson is going to round the final corner and take an easy victory in the first heat here at Nelson Ledges. And after such a good performance, that's got to give her a lot of confidence for tomorrow's feature race. We already know that she's one of the best road racers in the field, with all of her experience at HLR circuit. Minoko Kurosawa brings the truck home in second place, with Kevin Irvine in third and Grant Edwards, Kurosawa's teammate, in fourth. Michael McKinley in fifth, Jeffrey Jackson sixth, Chase Everhart seventh, and Ronald Way, despite finishing in eighth, will not be starting the feature race. The officials decided to give that spot to the 12th place finisher after Way's contact with the 97 on lap 2. Rachel Kowalczyk fell back to 9th, Wilson Timothy, Robinson's teammate, finishes in 10th, and Jason Miller manages to sneak into the race by finishing in 11th. I just mentioned that Way's position was supposed to go to the 12th place finisher, but that driver happens to be Mary Brousseau, whose truck, as we just saw, was destroyed in the last lap accident, and none of the drivers behind her have trucks that are in condition to race either. So it will be the 12th driver in the second heat who will get the free pass into the race, meaning the top 12 finishers of Heat 2 will be able to transfer to the feature. While it was Amy Robinson who started on the pole in Heat 1, it's the truck that she raced here last year that will be starting on the pole in Heat 2. Samantha Spires in the Northeast Racing Isani will lead the field to the start. That team has obviously benefited considerably from all of the expertise that Robinson brought to the 87 truck last year when Binford Racing Team bought out the entry for just this race, but she's going to make a little bit of contact with outside pole sitter Daniela Jacobson, who takes the lead after a very impressive start, holding on to the outside of turns 1 and 2 and putting herself at the head of the field. The high schooler is your current points leader in the AST Voltson Super Trucks, with her teammate Amberly Weiss right behind her in second in the standings. The Team Michigan trucks have gotten off to a fantastic start in 2017, and they're looking just as fast this weekend, with Jacobson leading the field around to the end of the first lap, with Archer Helms closely behind her. Ed Ramirez in the 98 is trying to work his way to the front. Ramirez is making his first start at this track, and of course is racing for the team that won this race last year. A couple of spots behind Ramirez, we find Bailey Bliss, the Toledo winner, who currently runs in 7th, and a couple of positions behind Bliss, we have Joel Rodriguez, who has come back for this race in an effort to defend his victory from last year, taking over the truck from his sister, who is racing it for all of the other events this year, but he goes off the course in the carousel, and as you can see up the track, Samantha Spires has done likewise from the top 5. Amberly Weiss also went off course for a moment, and these three trucks together have just lost a multitude of positions. Your defending race winner, your pole sitter for this heat, and the driver who was ranked second in the point standings are now running 12th, 13th, and 14th as Rodriguez sweeps around the 87 to take yet another position from her. That's going to put the 86 truck back into the transfer zone, but Spires and Weiss now have less than 2 laps to make up the ground that they've just lost, and Spires is going to drive off course again the very next lap. She nearly throws it into the tire barrier and is somehow going to keep it under control. The truck is okay, but she is now much too far behind to have any hopes of being able to catch up. Further up the track, we have a battle within the transfer zone between Camden Rhodes and Tiffany Rogers. Rhodes started this heat from the 15th and final position on the grid, but as he gets around Rogers, he's now moved himself all the way up into the 8th position. Some impressive speed shown by the 19-year-old who finished second in this race last year. But back at the front, Daniela Jacobson is going to lead heat number 2 from start to finish and take the checkered flag, much in the same fashion as Amy Robinson did in Heat 1 after a dominating performance. Right behind her, Archer Helms comes home in second after having run in that position for the whole 4 laps. Brian Kelly is in third with Adam Ramirez in fourth, Alex DeFranco 5th, Bailey Bliss 6th, Zach Churchill 7th, Camden Rhodes 8th, Tiffany Rogers 9th, Juan Cortez rounds out the top 10, Legend Hart finishes in 11th, and Joe Rodriguez is the final truck to transfer after having won this race last year. It's quite the surprise to see him that far down the order, but fortunately for him, he will still be able to start the race. Amberly Weiss, on the other hand, is the first truck outside the transfer zone, and that's going to be a huge blow to her championship standings. Big disappointment for Weiss, likewise with Jenny Jackson. But fortunately for Samantha Spires, and in spite of a disastrous heat race that saw her drop from first to last in the running order, she will still be able to start the feature race, as she was the fastest time trial qualifier who failed to transfer by finishing position. This is the second year in a row in which the 87 Isani has been the recipient of that pass, and hopefully Spires will be able to put it to good use in the feature race.